Welcome to our class, Arm Yourself Against Cancer. I want to thank you so much for being a part of this presentation. What I'd like to do is introduce myself. My name is Lynn Morales, and I'm a naturopath in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I'm also a body talk practitioner. So my mission in our company, Access Complete Wellness, is to share as much as we can with all of you on health and wellness, give you some education along the way. That's how my own journey started, and I found it to be helpful, and I found I understood a whole lot more once I knew the meaning and purpose behind so many different things. So again, welcome, and welcome to those across different time zones. I know we have people joining us, and it's an honor to have you with us this evening. Disclaimers, two of them. One, we're authorized to use this material. Secondly, we are not here to diagnose, treat, or cure anything. I'm not giving medical advice. I am simply here to give information that I hope will be extraordinarily helpful for each and every one of you. And want to let you know that we're going to share a lot of resources on this presentation, or you'll hear reference to resources. And so the good news is you are actually going to get a playback because you have registered for this. So you don't have to frantically work on taking notes or anything like that. We'll already have all of that ready to go. And if you'll give us a few days after this, you'll be sure to receive the playback and also a link to the resources. So again, welcome, and sit back and just take the time to relax and listen to the information. And I think you'll find it very helpful. I am certainly not the resident expert on cancer. I am going to share with you information that I know. And certainly there are others that have some really strong knowledge in this area. And my goal is to give you some of the basics to help you have a more informed outlook on your health and wellness. And here in this Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I think it just seemed appropriate to go through this material. So let's talk a little bit about what exactly is cancer. Just a brief definition. Cancer refers to a group of related diseases where some of the body cells become abnormal. They begin to unceasingly divide, and eventually they enter into surrounding tissue. And this can start almost anywhere within the body. Abnormal cells that would have otherwise died off survive, multiply, and initiate the growth of tumors. So I guess it's important that we cover what exactly is a tumor. Another name for a tumor is neoplasms. They're swollen masses of tissue. They have been a result of uncontrollable cell division. A malignant tumor, also known as a cancerous one, they're tumors that are classified by the type of cancer present as well as their state of development. And so depending on the type of cancer, they can be either solid or fluid filled. And tumors have the ability to invade other nearby tissues and facilitate the further movement of cancer cells throughout the body. And in turn, that encourages the growth of new tumors, which can contribute to a very vicious cycle. And then non-cancerous tumors, or what's known as benign tumors, they do not spread into surrounding tissues and usually do not cause further issues once they're actually removed. So let's talk through the differences between a cancer cell and a normal cell. There's about 8 main categories here. And so the first one I would say is growth. Normal cells stop reproducing or growing when there are enough cells present. However, cancer cells do not. they continue to grow, which in turn begins the formation of tumors. So another major difference between the two types of cells listed here is communication. So normal cells react and respond to nearby cell signals, and that's important for normal function in the body. But cancer cells don't do that. They're not very good communicators with the good cells. And then another aspect of the difference between these two would be cellular repair. So when a cell is actually damaged, a normal cell either is repaired or dies off. But in contrast, cancer cells are unable to be repaired or go through what's called a controlled cell death or apoptosis. And so cellular repair is another main difference there. Another difference is cohesion and then spreading. So a normal cell, it secretes substances that can help help them stick together, keeping them in their primary location of the body. But cancer cells, they fail to do that, and they're increasing the rate these cells freely travel throughout the body, and that's what causes them to sometimes metastasize. Another difference is appearance. Unlike normal cells, cancer cells vary in cell size and shape from one another. And also the nucleus of cancer cells appears a lot larger and darker than that of normal cells. And then the immune system relationship. So when normal cells are damaged, the immune system recognizes them and removes them. So that's really important. But conversely, cancer cells trick the immune system. They're really, they're tricky. And so they trick it by secreting chemicals that disable the immune cells from coming to the scene of tumor growth. And that's unfortunate in that respect, that they're so tricky in that way. And then the last aspect that makes them different, the difference is functionality. So normal cells inherently function properly, or the function they're designed to perform. But a cancer cell may not be considered functional at all. So those are some of the main differences between how the good cells, normal cells, versus cancer cells differ. So let's talk a little bit about this. So in order for a normal cell to actually become cancerous, a lot of changes have to occur. And so here's some of the factors that bring about those changes. So one of them is allowance of rapid growth. So the cells must possess a growth factor that prompts them to grow beyond what is necessary. And then failure to stop growth is another important aspect. So there's proteins that would otherwise instruct the cells to halt growth and die, and and inhibited them, and in turn they become abnormal. So these kind of cells, when they become cancerous, they also disregard, bodily signals. So, the cells have to evade other signals received from other cells of the body. Remember a moment ago I mentioned cancer cells are bad communicators or poor communicators with the healthy cells. And that's how they have their trickery in the picture. And then another thing about them is their lack of adhesion. So the normal adhesion properties of the cell are lost. And so, these are all attributed to gene mutations. And it's overall difficult for a normal cell to become cancerous, but these are possible and necessary changes in order for it to occur. So I'm going to move on now to, let's talk about these gene mutations and a little bit about what that means. So there's a lot of reasons that gene mutations can occur. Let's talk about a couple of them. So one is inherited gene mutations. And so some genetic mutations are passed down hereditarily, but it's important to know this accounts for a really small percentage of cancers. I think that's an important and actually very powerful point. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but it actually, in my opinion, offers hope, a lot of hope. And then The other reason behind gene mutations is what's referred to as environmentally provoked gene mutations, or that's what I call epigenetics. And out on our website, accesscompletewellness.com, you can read a couple of articles on epigenetics. You can search on it, or on my homepage, there's an article, Is Your Environment Making You Ill? And that's specifically talking about epigenetics. And so some of the causes of gene mutations around the epigenetic factors are things like carcinogens, viruses, hormones, obesity, inactivity, and chronic inflammation. Now, we're going to talk more about these further into this presentation, but here's the important thing. Surprisingly, mutations occur, quite regularly throughout normal cell growth. The cells, however, have that ability to recognize, identify, and repair these mistakes. But unfortunately, cancer can occur when these mistakes go unnoticed. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that further in the presentation. But let's move on to some of our common cancer risks. So, while these factors do not need to be present in order for cancer to develop, these are some of the factors known to increase the risk of cancer. One of them is age. Overall, as we age, cancer risk actually increases. Lifestyle choices is another. So habits like smoking, drinking, poor diet, improper sun exposure, remaining overweight or unsafe sex, and even inactivity all play a role in cancer risk, all of these things. Another one is family history. So while there's hereditary gene mutations, they're not as common, it's still worth being aware of your family's health history because it can be, very relevant to your cancer risk. And so it's important to know that up front. The best you can, get information from your family members, learn your parents' health history, your grandparents, things like that. Really important. And another scenario that can lead to more common cancer risk is environment. That includes things like secondhand smoke, harmful chemicals is certainly another one, and even environmental toxins. So all of these play into the cancer risks. And as you can tell, some of these are what we refer to as modifiable risk factors, meaning you can make a choice. You can modify your risk and lower your risk. And that's really important because it is your choice in how you want to go forward with life. So a lot of people, may not realize it, but, cancer is preventable. And that to me is such a hopeful thing. A lot of people talk about the fear of cancer. And I personally like to look at the hope of that it doesn't have to be in the picture. There was actually a study conducted in 2008 at MD Anderson Cancer Center. And those researchers found that 90 to 95% of all cancer cases are due to lifestyle and environmental factors. So that's that epigenetic thing I just mentioned a little while ago. And so basically, evidence concluded that cancer-related deaths were due to factors like the following. 25 to 30% were due to tobacco. 30 to 35% were due to diet. 15 to 20% were due to infections. And then the remaining was actually due to stress. And we're talking about stress, we mean like lack of physical activity, environmental pollution, radiation, exposures and things like that. And so many of those things are what I call the epigenetic factors. And that's one of the things I enjoy about the Body Talk work I do in our practice, because we can take a look at those epigenetic factors. And so maybe that term's not real clear to you, and I'll do my best to give you an easier scenario, the best I can. So you've got your genes, and so picture your mom and dad's, those two cells come together, they divide, and they have instructions on hair color and eye color and all these different things about how your body's gonna divide those cells and turn into you, the person that you are. The epigenetics behind it, those are factors that lay on top of the genes and cause them not to be able to write the way they were intended. And that's where you come into those lifestyle factors I mentioned. Could be diet, could be exposure to toxins, you know, different things like that. And so epigenetics lays on top of those genes, and that's what they're showing in the research, is that is actually the higher percentage of what leads to cancer these days. And so the great news is a lot of those things are modifiable. So that's why we want to, get the word out to all of us about the good news of what we can do to help ourselves here. So now that we've established that, that the vast majority of cancer can actually be prevented, I want to talk about, what you can do to arm yourself against this situation so that you're not part of the numbers. Of course, one of the things is to maintain a healthy weight. And, you hear that in so many things. You can look at so many of the webinars that we've offered over the months, and you're going to see that's a theme in every single one of them. So weight is a huge, huge part of this. And we can assist you with weight concerns within our practice as needed. Also looking at things like inflammation in the body. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in greater depth. In fact, most of these, so let me move through them. Improving gut health. I can't tell you the importance of, all the research is now backing up what many have already known for a while, is that, improve your gut health. Your gut health affects your brain health. And it's just super important to get that straight. Also looking at food sensitivities and intolerances. I'm so excited about some resources I'm using in my practice now that actually look at food sensitivities and intolerances and what's happened in your world that maybe brought that intolerance to the table. So many people often will not be in a position to eat dairy and wheat and tomatoes, and like they have all these lists of foods they can't eat anymore, and then they kind of wonder, well, gosh, what can I eat now? And the bottom line is sometimes there are actually your own reasons, your own emotional factors, epigenetic factors that brought those sensitivities and intolerances on. And the great news is you can get those out of the way as well. And so I'm excited about some of our new resources that we're using to do that. Of course, refining your diet. We're going to talk more about that. Reducing toxin exposure. And boy, are there toxins in this world today. We do try to work and help the environment be better, but unfortunately, there's a lot working against us on that. Managing stress, of course, very important for all diseases. Controlling or stopping actual alcohol consumption is important. Not smoking. Upping your water intake. You don't know how important that is, but water flushes out the toxins. I cannot stress that enough. And so many of you might not drink enough water, and that's okay. I didn't used to drink enough either, and I do better now. And I teach a class called Body Talk Access. It's a layperson's class for Body Talk. And one of the things that we do is we teach a hydration technique in there. And so what's really neat about it is it doesn't matter if you're getting enough water, it helps your body best use the water you are giving it. Now, it's not supposed to replace that. You're still supposed to drink a good amount of water, but it certainly helps. Certainly proper sun exposure is very important. And then of course, exercising regularly, and then getting healthy sleep. When you don't sleep, your body doesn't repair, and that's not good for your health. And so I'll share with you, we recently completed a Sleep 101 class. You can find that out on our website, accesscompletewellness.com. Just search for Sleep 101 and the webinar will be available and the links as well. So really great resources in that one. So let's go through one by one now, each of these ways to help lower your risk. So, the National Cancer Institute has stated that obesity is one of the major risk factors for cancer. Now, each institute for each disease is all saying the same thing. So I think we all need to be paying really close attention to weight. And again, that's some things we can do here within our practice to assist with that. And although that association with obesity is dependent on the type of cancer, the following things, though, are generally what contribute to the cancer growth. And so one of them is actually excessive estrogen production within the fat cells. And you may be thinking, especially if you're a male, like, oh, how does that affect me? Well, how it affects you is it has a lot to do with your diet. You can actually get excess estrogen from your food. Yes. So they use a lot of growth hormones and steroids to help chickens grow faster and to help cows grow faster and things like that. And so when you're eating foods like that are not organic and that are not certified not to be using growth hormones and things like that, that estrogen, because that's in the hormone used to grow the animals, that estrogen can actually will get into your system, and then it'll get into your fat cells, and that will cause you to have difficulty losing weight. And so that's one of the things that we like to work on in the weight and metabolism work that I do. Also, increased levels of insulin. Also, another important concern around weight management. And then there's certain hormones, adipokine hormones that are from fat cells. They actually can inhibit cell growth. And then also fat cells actually influence cell growth regulators. And that also can, when your fat cells do not know how to release toxins, do not know, or maybe they have obesogens where they're locked down, and maybe you didn't know that. You can have a toxin called an obesogen that locks down your cells and causes that weight not to release, and not to leave those cells. And so those are some things that we can work on together in the body talk work that we do. Chronic low-level inflammation can be an important weight management concern. It also will cause your immune system response to be low. And then, of course, weight management is also going to be hampered when your oxidative stress is higher. So a lot of these things, it's important to recognize that, obesity is in the picture for a lot of people. And at an unhealthy amount, and that distribution of body fat can really have some significant risk factors from a cancer perspective. So inflammation, you might only think about inflammation as it relates to, oh, you hurt your foot or you have a sprained ankle and now it's swollen, right? But you may not realize inflammation is a vital immune system, response. And it's our body's natural way to defend against invaders. It helps us heal from harm and repair damage that's happened. And but chronic inflammation is not helpful. And so to have inflammation consistently, the body's ability to recognize, attack, and defend is really weakened when you have high inflammation. And one way you'll know if you have high inflammation, for one, is pain. Pain, that's traditional Chinese medicine. Again, something we do in our practice. When there's pain, there's inflammation. It's a given. And so it's always an opportunity to look at how can we reduce that. And so when the body remains in this high alert state for extended period of times, those immune system cells, they become impaired, and then lasting damage can actually occur. So this state of chronic inflammation draws some parallels with many chronic diseases that we see today. Cancer is one of them. But if it's not addressed, more complications can actually occur, like insulin resistance, autoimmune complications, and then, of course, tumor progression. So a couple of things. So a few ways to combat chronic inflammation are things like boosting your gut health, um, adapting, or I should say adopting, a more anti-inflammatory diet is certainly helpful. There's supplementation that can help with that. Actually, we use a program in our practice that we can actually measure your cell inflammation levels with a blood stick test. It's actually a very, very nice option and very affordable. And then it helps us know how to help move you in the proper direction from a inflammation standpoint. Certainly, detoxing when necessary, that is very helpful in getting toxins out. It's like, scrubbing the nasty stuff off the cell walls. Also, another way to address inflammation is to make sure that if you have any outstanding infections, you want them cleared up. So some people might think, well, why would I have an infection that I wouldn't fix? How many people, right, have actual, like maybe a toothache or something, and they're not addressing it, right? So these are kind of examples of infections that actually could increase inflammation in your cells. Another thing is, of course, manage your stress. That's a whole nother conversation for a different class. And then physical fitness, of course, are all ways to help address inflammation. And I love this picture talking about the gut microbiome. So maybe you don't know what a microbiome is. So that's an ecosystem of organisms that include, bacteria, yeast, fungus, viruses, and they're all part of the digestive tract. So all the microbes that help your digestive tract. Maybe you didn't know this, but there's good bacteria and not so good bacteria. And all this whole microbiome, this whole body ecology, it all has to work together. There's microbiomes all over the body, but the gut's the one we're going to focus on now, and they all have to work together. It's a community, and everybody needs to be getting along in there and in the proper levels and the proper balances. So because there's such a close relationship between our microbiome and our immunity, the research actually suggests that the gut has a very significant role to play in determining cancer risk. So a couple of things that are not good friends of the gut or enemies of gut health, and that would be the standard American diet, or the SAD diet. You've probably heard that before. Excessive use of prescription medications can really impact your gut health. If you've taken any antibiotics or things like that, strongly recommend you get a probiotic. And a lot of medical doctors are starting to make that recommendation, and I'm so excited to hear that. It's important to have the right probiotic. There's a perfect balance, and that balance is not as easy to achieve as you might think, especially if you've really harmed it. But it's good to change out your probiotic. If you've been on the same one for 10 years, that's probably not good. You, generally speaking, your gut ecology changes as you eat different foods and are exposed to different things. So you really want to be thinking, you want to change out your probiotic. Sometimes as often as 30 days, but 30, 60 to 90 days out are certain things to think about to have good gut health. Also, boy, a lot of people don't have good enzyme activity in the gut. Now, you see these foods here, these are live foods in this picture. And so that's going to help you with enzymes. That's going to help your body break stuff down in your gut. But sometimes as we get older, we actually need enzymes, enzyme help from a little supplement or something. So we can help you with things like that if you don't know what to use in that respect. Then, of course, some damage to the gut health scenario can be toxin exposures. Like maybe you were exposed to some chemical while you ate a food. Maybe it was washed in a chemical. It was there, the restaurant you were at was trying to clean it with something, and I don't know what they used, but they didn't use something organic, and that's where you could pick up toxins. Sometimes you can pick up toxins from simple pesticides that are used to grow foods, which is why we want to use organic. And then, of course, other bad things for gut health would be untreated infections. We talked about that. And then chronic stress. If you know anybody with an ulcer, That's stress, and that's not good for their digestive system. So, what we eat and what we don't eat, that can fuel or discourage the development of cancer. So research has concluded that there's solid evidence that certain dietary habits have a sizable impact on cancer. So let's talk about some of those examples. Um, the encouraged cancer prevention diet is plant-based. It provides essential minerals and vitamins and antioxidants and phytonutrients. And here's some of the things that it includes. Non-starchy foods. So of course, broccoli, spinach, beans all sound good. Whole fruits. Usually fruits lower in sugar are best. Now, fruits and vegetables that contain vitamin C are very helpful. Things like maybe oranges, berries, peas, bell peppers, dark leafy greens, things like that are really helpful. And then vegetables rich in lycopene, tomatoes, watermelon, guava, things like that. And then vegetables rich in carotenoids such as carrots, Brussels sprouts, squash, and unprocessed grains, all of that good for you. And then don't forget the good fats. There really are good fats. And those are things like olive oil and coconut oil. Very, very good for you. Avocado oil. And so I've told you the good stuff, right? How to amp up your diet, but what about things maybe you want to stay away from? A couple of things I would recommend. High calorie processed foods. If you've got some food that can sit on a shelf, for 10 years and not go bad, that's probably one, that's not your best day-to-day go-to. I mean, it's good in if you have a power outage or something and you can't get to the rest of your food, but bottom line is, processed foods are not the best for you. Anything with added sugars, not good. And look at those carbohydrates. Foods high in carbs, that's sugar, if you didn't know that. Also, excess salt, too much salt, not a good thing. And, for some people, red meat is not the best. I'm not saying it's bad for everybody. I'm not one of those who thinks that you have to be on vegetables only in your life. I think things in moderation. Another thing to look at is, they actually have pretty extensive research now and around evidence connecting drinking alcohol with several different types of cancer. So according to the National Toxicology Program of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, alcohol is listed as a known human carcinogen. Certain alcohols have a lot of sugar. And I think that has a lot to do with why it's not good from a cancer perspective. The research indicates that the more someone drinks regularly, the higher the risk they have of developing cancer. It was once believed that limited alcohol consumption was appropriate, an appropriate part of a cancer prevention plan. But now they're actually starting to see other studies that, may be concluding that minimal consumption still raises cancer risk. Again, I think there's a lot to do there with the sugar part of the alcohol. Some alcohol is much more rich with sugar than others, and that may be part of the factor there. Boy, you've heard this for years, right? Really, tobacco isn't good. They see lung cancer with it, and oral cancer. So it is a leading cause of cancer, as well as death from cancer. And the chemicals within the tobacco products can directly damage the DNA. And that's, I knew of a woman that worked or grew up on a tobacco farm, and she would joke that, you all haven't seen what kinds of things go into that tobacco. And she meant chemicals, chemicals to control whatever was necessary to help the tobacco plants grow. I think that boils back down to, again, the toxins, I think, are really a challenging thing for disease of any type. So, research is supporting the importance of physical activity in cancer prevention now, but quite frankly, it's supporting it in every disease category. So if you've been, experiencing some of our other webinars, you're going to hear these themes are not changing. So some of the benefits of exercise is that, and that what helps reduce the risk of cancer is that it actually regulates blood levels of your hormones. And, you know, your hormones are a huge, massive communication system, very, very intricate. Like, these are not to be messed with, not to be taken with just a grain of salt. These are super serious. And you've got to have all your hormone levels working at all the right levels for you to feel good. So important to reduce that exposure to dietary carcinogens, because it impacts these levels of hormones. It impacts by accelerating metabolism as well. And another thing about making sure you're moving, right, is prevention of body fat accumulation. Now, we just talked about fat a little while ago, and you would be surprised about those obesogens, right? And you'd be surprised about the things that can get in those fat cells and then locked down, not to be released until you have the right practitioner who knows how to do that. So one of the things they recommend for get moving, right, is to actually 30 minutes a day, most days of the week, and doing even it incrementally. Maybe you do 10 minutes now, 10 minutes at lunch, 10 minutes at, after dinner, walking, something like that. So the most important advice I could give you for adopting a fitness routine is make it fun. If you don't like it, if you just dread going and doing it, then why do it? Life's too short. Find something fun. Find something you like to do. Throw the Frisbee with your dog, or, walk with your spouse, or, just do something fun, So I can't stress that enough. So be thinking about how you get your movement in. I know one of the classes that we teach is called 3 Pillars Strong. It's about seeing well and balancing well, but moving well. And one of the things we do is we teach people how to joint mobility and things like that. All that's super important. Wow. Sleep. Quality sleep is essential. Super, super essential. I did mention Sleep 101. We have already prepared that class. It's out on our website. That is super important for immune function, for healing, and for mental health. It helps you sleep. It helps you rest. You want to ensure to the best of your ability that you're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night. We're told our whole lives how important sleep is for our health, but science now is proving it. Yay, science. Studies, they've been addressing the relationship of insufficient sleep habits with some of the top cancers in the US, and 1 in every 10 people experiences sleep disturbances. And you know what? There's things you can do, modifiable, again, factors that you can change to help your sleep. And then there are, sometimes you need help. Sometimes you need some melatonin, or sometimes you need a chamomile tea or something to kind of calm things down. So a few things to think about there on the sleep front. Very important. If you're having difficulty with that, give our office a call. Even if you're long distance or somewhere else in the country, there's a lot we can do long distance to assist you if that's one of your challenges. Gosh, every class I've prepared for months now, managing stress, super important. And yet our country is just so busy, so busy. But yet this is such an important aspect of it. So it's super important to eat nutritious foods and have healthy habits and adopt an exercise routine and get sleep. But if your stress levels are out of control, that's those hormones I was talking to you about. If you have cortisol stress out of control, you're going to gain weight. Your other hormones are going to start being out of balance. It's going to affect sleep. And sleep hormones, they all work together. So out on my website, we have a great tool. There's a Tahiti vacation relaxation exercise. It's 15 minutes and it's the equivalent of 4 hours of sleep. There are times I really enjoy doing that. And so I want to just bring that to your attention because it's a great way to calm yourself. We also have out on our website the cortices technique, brain balancing right and left brain. You can go watch a video out there on that. And that's getting the left and right brain communicating again. It's extraordinary for managing stress and bringing your stress levels way down. So meditation, also a great way to manage stress. If you practice that, or of course, prayer and quiet time, I certainly enjoy that myself. Yoga, also a great practice. And if there's any of these, techniques or things I'm mentioning that you don't know much about or want to learn more about, or if you need me to refer you to someone, again, if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I can do that. Let us know, reach out to us. We'll give you some names of places to practice some of these things. Certainly gardening or joining a garden club is always a great stress relaxer. There's something about getting your hands in the dirt. Being one with nature, very important. Taking a walk. There's another great stress manager. One thing I like to do is take about 10 minutes out of my day and walk outside and be in the sun. And actually close my eyes and look up at the sun. The sun is super helpful for that melatonin, rejuvenation, and helping your body just get away from the technology sometimes and that whole cabin fever thing. Spending a time with loved ones, I can't stress that enough. Life's short, and you want to find time for those folks. Calming music, also very good. Music has an effect on the body, I'll tell you that. And there is music that can be highly agitating to people. And I would recommend that, you find something that's calming and soothing. I oftentimes only like music, do not like lyrics in the songs. That to me calms me much more. So a few things to think about there. Gosh, my all-time favorite for managing stress, get a massage. Whew, you can't beat that, right? So I am blessed to have some massage therapists in my realm of influence, and I'm so grateful to have them in my life. They do such a great job. Reading a good book, also another phenomenal way to manage stress. I don't recommend, a lot of times people watch the news. We have 24/7 cable news now. No, I don't recommend things like that, especially at night. That doesn't help manage stress. But reading a good book, letting that book in your imagination take you to somewhere else is a wonderful thing. Maybe you enjoy cooking, or some other hobby. So I would just, recommend that find the thing that works for you to help you manage your stress. And maybe that means you even need some quiet time to yourself. Maybe you've got kids and pets and, families pulling at you. I cannot stress enough the importance of managing that stress. So I'll just leave it at that. So find something that works for you. Every one of us is different. We all have new, unique gifts and talents and interests. And so, find the thing that works best for you. So, wow, we have covered a lot of ground in our webinar here. And I just want to thank you for your time, because it means a lot to us that you've decided to, and chosen to spend this time with us to help yourself, arm yourself against cancer and other diseases. And one of the things that I'm going to share with you, if you have questions, you can certainly chat them in, and I'll do my best to get to the chat and see what questions there are. Before we do that, though, while you might be thinking of a question or two, wanted to mention a couple of things. We are going to have a free live class, Boost Your Brain Health. It is going to be here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Harbor Chase of Plano, October 24th, 6 p.m. It will last probably a little after 7 o'clock. Cannot encourage you enough to come learn. There are a lot of people starting to experience cognitive decline in their day-to-day. And so I'm just sharing. You can register for this at our website, accesscompletewellness.com. You can do the / upcoming events -events. But if you just go to accesscompletewellness.com and scroll down the page on the homepage, the upcoming events are listed there as well. And let me tell you about another one. Yay, holidays. Can you believe it? They're already here. So our next free webinar is going to be November 7th. Make this the holiday season the healthiest yet. November 7th, 8 p.m. Central Time. We are doing it in November because, of course, that's leading into Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. And so what we want to do is cover stress levels. That'll be important. And high caloric foods will all be covered as well. If you cannot make that, again, you have to sign up and register so you'll get the playback. If you don't register, you're not going to get the playback, even if you, if you can't make it. So you got to register. Again, same place, accesscompletewellness.com / upcoming events, or just accesscompletewellness.com on our homepage. So I want to thank you here's our contact information, and I'm going to see if there's any, I have any chatting, and let me see what I might have here. Okay. Don't see any questions in the chat. So again, I want to thank all of you for joining us. It is such a pleasure to have you here each month, and I want to thank you again. And please reach out to us if you do have questions on any of the material. And if you'll give us few days, we'll be sure to get you the playback and all the resource links. Let's see if I have one more chat, maybe. Fabulous. All right. Again, thank you so much. And I want to wish all of you a happy rest of the month of October. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future and visiting with you either at our live class in a couple of weeks from tonight or on our future webinars. Again, thank you so much for your participation.